Hey guys, you get a really special episode today because what drew me to Breena from the get-go was her mindset, was her energy. And I think most of you that follow her probably feel the same way. And something that still blows me away is when I get on social media and I see all of you guys just tagging her and noting her mindset. Or even at the Olympia last year when she got on stage and the announcer just kept talking so much about her mindset. It just gave me chills. It just shows who she is as a person. So today I wanted to ask her all the questions that everyone wants to know, all about mindset. How do you do this? Aren't you stressed? Aren't you defeated? Aren't you feeling the pressure? All the things that maybe we've felt as athletes, whether you're in the NPC or IFBB. So today we get a special little podcast or little interview with Breena. And so we're excited for this one.
If there's anyone who can get me to open up and pick my brain, it's this girl right here. Who else other than my best friend, right?
Yeah. So this will be fun. You guys get a little insight into our extensive, long conversations that we have on pretty much a daily basis. So, Breena, let's start out with just, what does this journey mean to you? I mean, you've been doing this 7 years. You've been at the top, you've been at the bottom, you've been everywhere in between, and why do you keep going? What's this journey about?
That's a fully loaded question, Jenna. How much time do you guys have? When I first started becoming a trainer, I saw that, number one, there wasn't a lot of female trainers. And I also saw that there wasn't a lot of female coaches within the bodybuilding industry. So number one, I saw that there was a need, and knowing that there's a need always drives me, because it's kind of like when I'm at church and they want volunteers. I'm just like, okay, what do you need? I'll go. That's always been my go-to, because if I feel like I can make a difference, then I want to do that. And for me, what keeps me going is it's definitely the results and the progress. If I wasn't continuing to improve, I would have hung up my heels a long time ago. Because what is the point of grinding and sacrificing if you don't see results, right? So I am very result driven, but I'm addicted too at the same time. They're those endorphins, of the chase. I've been an athlete my whole life from the age of 7, whether it was cross country, track and field, basketball, soccer, softball. I would have done wrestling, but my dad was like, that's where we draw the line.
You would.
But it's just I enjoy a challenge, because I've learned over the years that you don't grow and you don't learn if you're not challenged. If everything is gravy, if everything is perfect, sunshine and rainbows, when is there an opportunity to elevate yourself? Because when things are great, you're comfortable. I'm just going to stay here and enjoy this. And that's why I had to kind of change my mindset when it comes to adversity. In the beginning, I was the biggest sore loser ever. I really was. And this journey, this bodybuilding journey has shown me, we talk about this all the time, bodybuilding, life building, faith building, it's all intertwined. When I have conversations with women and that are interested in bodybuilding, one of the first things I tell them is, this is going to be one of the more difficult things you're going to do, because it challenges you mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, financially. I've never done a sport that challenged me on all of those levels. But because it challenged me, it made me a better woman. It made me a better wife, a better trainer, a better friend. And so the long-winded answer is I keep doing this because I see progress. I also see it as a way for me to learn and get as much that I can through this experience for others. My faith and being a believer in Jesus Christ is very important to me. And my purpose is to love God and love others. Well, I can love others by sharing my experience in hopes that it inspires, it motivates, and could potentially save people from some of the roadblocks or potholes that happen on the journey. If awareness is a huge piece of it. And so I know that I've been blessed to be within this industry for 7 years. I've been blessed to be with multiple coaches. I've met so many people within the industry, and I've been a sponge. I've just done my best to absorb as much knowledge. You know, what worked, what didn't, what might work for me might work for someone else. What worked for them probably won't work for the next. So it's just been this beautiful journey of failing. And most people would be like, beautiful journey of failing. Like, how does beauty and failure go in the same sentence?
Breena, no one wants to fail.
No one wants to.
Nobody likes to fail.
Nobody wants to. I didn't want to either. But you know what? I've done 48 shows, but I don't have 48 wins. So that I have a lot more losses than wins. But those losses, that L should really stand for learning. Because I've learned a lot. I've learned what not to do. I've learned what to do. I've learned what works for me, what doesn't. I've also learned what I'm willing to sacrifice and what I'm not willing to sacrifice. And I feel like when you have those things, you just have vision and it's clear. And I know that I was put on this earth to help people because it feels so good. It feels so good. Like when we first met, I mean, we went for like 2 hours, right? Just talking because I genuinely felt I could help you.
Hold on, side note. We did talk for 2 hours.
This is true.
But my initial intention, be really transparent here, I had a list of questions. I was going to interview her. And I thought for sure she was not going to be the coach for me because I just had a lot of things that I needed to happen. I was going through like a season in my life where I really needed someone that was supportive of it. And I mean, you heard her. You heard her mindset. You heard the way that she talks about this process. And what I'm hearing is challenge. It's hard to like chase a challenge or want to go for a challenge because the fear in going with something that's challenging is that you're going to fail. It holds a lot of people back, that fear of failure. But I love that you have this mentality towards learning. And I think that the learning is what pushes you forward anyway. Because you know, failing forward, right? Like failing forward, all of those you're taking and gaining something from it. And that's so powerful. And the other thing that you said, which we talk a lot about all the time, is growth through resistance. It's just the most amazing thing, not only in life, but in the gym.
Oh, yes.
You're there and you're putting resistance on muscles so that they grow bigger. And when you put that into that's where the life building comes, right? Bodybuilding, we're in the gym, we're putting resistance on the muscles to grow. You take that now into life.
Yes.
And that growth through resistance is what it's all about.
100%. And what I love even more about it is, you know, when I got through the first few shows and when I started getting more confidence in myself, the next question that I asked was, what else can I do? That's what's so great about being willing to push through adversity and being willing to look a challenge in the face and know like, hey, you're either going to win or you're going to learn, but you're not going to fail because you chose to move forward. And that has always been my biggest thing. I like I said, I don't always win every show. That doesn't mean that I don't want to. I go into every single show thinking I'm going to win. I've gone to 6 Olympias thus far, and every single Olympia, I've always been like, I'm going to be the Bikini Olympia champion. I'm going to sit there and have a conversation with Bob Ciccarello. I'm going to like memorize it. I'm going to look out and see my husband. I'm going to blow him a kiss. I'm probably going to bawl my eyes out. Like, that's where I go. And it has not happened.
Still dreaming for it.
Still dreaming, still working. But here's the thing that I've also learned. There's a saying of, you know that you're passionate about something when you don't get the result that you want, but you still keep pushing anyways, as if it is yours, as if you want that. And so I've never lost my drive. I've had doubts. I've had my moments where I was like, I just don't know if I'm going to do it this year. I've had those, you know, and even right now, I am up against the wall. I have one last opportunity to get my 7th consecutive qualification to Olympia.
So can we talk about that? I am someone who's learning. So Breena coined the term recovering perfectionist. She's in that journey. I'm on that journey. And I've learned a lot from her. Being an elite athlete like she is, there's got to be pressure. And how do you do that? How do you push forward in knowing like you want something so bad, you have one more chance to make the Olympia this year? And how do you get through the pressure? How do you keep yourself calm in a way?
You don't. You allow yourself to
what?
feel.
That's
You don't.
not the answer I wanted to hear. I don't think they like that answer either.
I'm just keeping it 100 though.
Yeah.
There is no such thing as balance. I look at it as a balancing act. If I sit there and allow myself to succumb to the pressure, I'm gonna get paralyzed. But there is pressures because I think, I do coach pros. I do have athletes that I've helped turn pro. I do see people watching my journey and being like, if she can't do it, what makes me think I can? And I've had an athlete actually tell me that, like, Breena, why should I even continue competing? I feel like you look great and you're not getting rewarded. If you can't, then, so there is that pressure because I know that people are internalizing, how well I do or lack thereof. And I also feel like as a prep coach, people feel like you're supposed to have all the answers, and the thing is, with bikini being such a moving target, you're not going to have the answers. So what do I do to calm myself down, right? Well, my husband's actually been a huge help with this because this is something that we speak on in our household on a regular basis. And I have to be reminded of it all the time, and as he's recording, he's laughing because he already knows what I'm going to say because we talk about this every day. It's become an affirmation. It's a mantra, if you will, but every day is an opportunity to give your best. Every day is a new day. It doesn't matter what you did yesterday. You could have checked off all the boxes. It's 150%. I crushed yesterday. That's great. What are you doing today? Right? I mean, even in sales, right? Yeah. For those people that work in sales, it's like, it doesn't matter how great your sales were this month, because guess what? You got to do it all over again the next month. So it's constantly understanding that you can give your best and it might not work out, but you still have to have the love and passion and desire to keep pressing forward anyways. The other thing that really keeps me going is seeing people get inspired by my journey. Knowing that, when we used to have our expos, right? I remember going to Australia, going to Japan. I loved traveling internationally because it gave me so much perspective. You get followers on the gram, you know what I mean? And that's really not like my favorite thing, like, oh, how many people do I have? But to actually go and meet these people, like at an expo, and then have someone come up to you, like with tears in their eyes and say, you've changed my life. I'm like, what? Just with a post? Like, how? But it's like, but you're being so honest and real, and we know how hard you're working, and then you don't get it. You don't get bitter. You don't start bashing people. You don't, start saying X, Y, and Z, like we've seen some people do. I get back in the gym and I start working harder. Or I analyze and, okay, what can I do differently? Because there's always something to learn. But I think that it's easier said than done for most. I also feel that being Christ-centered and having faith, it always gives me perspective. Understanding what I was put here on this earth to do helps me understand, like, okay, yes, I'm giving my all to this sport, but this sport does not define me. A placement does not define me. Yes, I've got trophies and tiaras and I've got swords, you know what I mean? But 5 years from now, what are those going to mean? Absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. But people will remember how they felt when they heard my words. People will remember the feels more so than the accolades. And I feel like that is more important than anything, because I want people to feel inspired and motivated, valued. I want everyone to know that they're worthy. And I don't want anyone to stop themselves short of chasing a goal because they don't feel that they can do it. Do you know how many people told me, you won't turn pro, you won't be an Olympian, you're going to need to do X, Y, and Z in order to do that. Oh, you want to do it that way? That's not going to happen for you. That also fueled me. So I'm motivated by people. I'm motivated by the challenge. Tell me I can't do something and, watch me do it. That's kind of been my thing. But it's been that way my whole life. Like, not a lot of people know, but I actually walked on to San Jose State's basketball team and earned, after a year of grinding, driving back and forth from Hollister to San Jose. For those of you that don't know, think about maybe at least an hour drive, right? I would get home at 11 o'clock. I'm up by 4 a.m. driving back. Why? Because I had to hit the gym. We had weightlifting. Then I had, all these units because I got my BA in psychology, my minor in sociology. Our coach was like, every athlete needs to have at least 16 units minimum or you cannot be on the team. She was very adamant about, she didn't want to have like 5th year and 6th year seniors. She wanted us to get an education. She wanted us to have our degrees. And I love that, I also worked part-time. while doing all this. So I'm no stranger to hard work, you know? My dad gave me the best advice as a young buck. I remember, you know, I was probably like maybe 7 years old. And he told me, he said, Breena, I want you to know right now that you will always have an uphill climb. You know, you being a minority, you being a woman, you know, you're going to have to work that much harder than anyone else just to get a fair shake. And I'm glad he told me that. I'm glad he gave it to me raw as a young kid, because I knew at that point that whatever my hard was, it needed to be harder than anyone else's. That's why, like, you know, Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, how he says, be the hardest worker in the room. I was like, yep, that's me. I'm going to do that all day, every day. So all of that is a combination of what goes on in here. And even though it's hard at times when you don't get the result that you want, I've always seemed to come back stronger. And I know it's because of my faith in God and understanding that he gives me that strength. Like I was definitely depleted. I put up a story recently. I was depleted mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally. I mean, we had talked, you know, I was fighting, you know, sobs on the phone, you know, but it was because my energy, everything was just, I was done. You know, it was 2 weeks of a lot of mental and emotional stuff that I was dealing with.
Well, and like we talked about, even if you would have won the show, you still probably would have had those same feels, because it wasn't about the win or the placement or whatever. It's just the fact that competing is hard. If you've been a competitor, if you've gone through a prep, you get that it takes a lot of work and it does deplete you in a lot of ways. And I think that's where you were at in that moment.
Life doesn't stop just because you're competing. It would be nice if we could put ourselves in these bubbles. Like, I'm in my bubble. You cannot bother me. I'm not for 12 weeks, right? But no, you know, like, people get married, people have babies, people die, you know, like, people get sick. All these things are happening. I mean, hello, COVID, right? Like, a lot of things have changed. You know, I mean, I'm not one to talk about politics and race and all that other stuff, but let's be honest. There's a lot going on in the world right now, and everyone is affected in some way, shape, or form. You know, so it's one of those things where competing is important to me, but when you look at life as a whole, I have to keep that in perspective. There is more to life than just competing. And so keeping myself in that perspective, understanding that God has a plan for me and his plan is always better than mine and his timing is always better than mine, that gives me peace. And so, you know, even though I was depleted, the first thing I did, I still had my luggage and I went straight to the Grove. I went straight to church to get myself filled back up, to give myself perspective again, to remind myself of what's truly important in this world. So I recommend that to everyone. What is important to you? And hold on to that. And allow that to give you the strength during the hard times.
Yeah, I love that you share that. And I love that you always share the backstory, because something we talk a lot about, and with so many of our clients, is that transformation truly does happen from the inside out. And so I love that, especially after 7 years, not 12 years.
Feels like 12 sometimes.
Feels like a long time. 7 years of doing, you know, just this sport, you have really transformed yourself from the inside out, where, you know, maybe year 1 or 2, the work and the hard work and the grind and the desire to win meant a lot more than it does now. And so it's interesting, and I love to hear the process of all that, how all that happened, and even just to hear how your dad instilled things in you from a young child that has pushed you and led you this far. It's such a powerful testament to who you are, to who your family is, and just, you know, the support of your husband and the things that you guys talk about. I think that's what we all are drawn to you for. And the way that you share and the way that you post about it is really inspiring. It truly is.
I really appreciate that. I think now that I'm getting deeper into my faith, I truly feel like this is not me doing it. I truly feel like God is using me and he's working through me, and I am just in a place in my life right now where it means more to me to enrich the lives of others than it does for myself.
Yeah.
And I think that is why I'm able to roll with the punches, you know, like, it doesn't mean I don't get upset, but it also means I get over it very quickly.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's so important. And I think it's what has led you to the success, and each journey leads to the next. Every step leads to the next, and kind of leads me to you shared in your post before, and so much about trust and trusting yourself, and how maybe you had tried coaching yourself, you know, a few years in and realized, I don't trust myself. I'm turning into a basket case. And now you're kind of in a space where maybe you can trust yourself, and you're also allowing people in to help. Because let's put it this way, you are kind of superwoman. I mean, do we agree? And it's hard to sometimes drop the ego, right? And allow other people to speak into your situation or speak into your journey, because there's that balance of like trusting yourself and also feeling like you don't have to do it alone. Can you talk a little bit about that? I know you always bring up ego.
Yes.
And it's something that you've worked on throughout this journey.
Oh, yes. I definitely was on team. If I want it done right, I'm going to do it myself. I mean, I know everyone has probably said that or felt that to some degree in their life. And again, when I think about it really has been me and my faith. Like, that's why there's so much change happening for me from the inside out. Because when you recognize that, you know, God doesn't necessarily speak down for me to be like, Breena, this is what you're going to do. But you know what? He does send people. And when I realized that, you know, after reading the Bible from cover to cover, that was like one of the goals that, you know, my husband and I had last year, and just seeing constant stories over and over again on how God uses people, even when you don't feel like you're qualified, he still uses you. He turns, you know, ashes into beauty. So it was one of those things where I was like, okay, well, I need to start trusting the people that he's putting in my life. But it's so hard to do that when you've been burned, when you've been scarred, when people that you trust hurt you, right? But
well, one of my most favorite things is that human beings are always going to fail. And I feel that that's the story, again, for me, that God has always taught, is that you can put your trust in a human, and they'll probably let you down.
Know that up front. Know that there's going to be some disappointment, and that's okay. But I think because I'm a recovering perfectionist, I was like, well, if there's that chance, then I'll just be by myself. Like, it's fine. But and that's one of the reasons why, like, for many years, I've always kept a very small clientele, because I knew that I couldn't spread myself. I knew that I couldn't take on as many people. And, you know, I remember having a waiting list, just pages long, and I could never really get to it, because I didn't trust anybody. I'm like, well, if I bring anyone on, they're going to steal my clients. Or, you know, or do they care as much as I care? You know, are they going to take the time to write a novel back to a client? You know, like, so that's why I was like, I'm just going to do it myself. Then, of course, God sent you. And now things have changed, you know? And if I'm really being transparent, you're the reason why I'm able to do that now. You showed me, I'm not going to cry. I'm not crying, you're crying. You showed me that I can trust people, that there are good people in the world, that there are people that genuinely want to help. There are people that care as much as I do. I just needed to find them, you know, and I went to the desert and I found her. Well, it wasn't I did. God made that happen.
Well, you know it goes both ways, right? You guys will eventually hear the long story, but let's just say I had to take a really long improvement season, and I was told I would never compete again. What I went through, I was recovering from an eating disorder, depression, the whole thing. And I went to Breena, and I was praying about getting another coach. And I reached out to someone, and they passed me along to Breena. So it wasn't even my original pick, but it turned out to be such a godsend. God knew that I needed to be passed over to her, and she's the one that has taught me to trust people and allow people in. And so it is a two-way street here.
The reciprocation.
So thank you for saying that. And it does go both ways.
It's true. I mean, and we'll eventually get my husband in on this. So yes, you finally get to talk to the guy behind all the content that you see.
We want him over here.
Because he'll give it to you too. Like, he knows me. 10 years ago, if you guys would have met me, you would just been like, This is why that was Sabrina. Yes, in case you didn't know, my full name is Sabrina. I go by Breena. And there is a transformation with that, because Sabrina was a very indecisive, uncomfortable, very shy. I know you guys are like, what? No way. It's true. My husband will attest to all of it. He's excited to let you guys know the real deal about me. But it was through love and through people that I was able to transform and get better. My husband made me better. You know, Jenna's made me better. God has put the right people in my life to make me better. And that's why I feel like there is another purpose for me. And so I need to learn how to trust myself. Because if I am creating this relationship with Christ and he dwells within me, I need to trust myself. I need to trust my gut. I have all this experience. What good is it to have all this experience? 7 years, 48 shows. I've had great preps. I've had bad preps. I've won shows. I've been in second, third call outs, you know? I mean, luckily for me, I've never been dead last, but in your mind, you think like, I'm going to be dead last. That's never happened, you know? And every time I've always given my best. And every time I feel like, you know, there was nothing more that I could give, when I look at the pictures, I'm always, wow, I may have not got the end result that I wanted, but I'm headed in the right direction. And so when I saw that, it made me apply it to life too, not just bodybuilding. It made me think, you know what, maybe I should adjust the story in my mind. Because a lot of times we stay with things that we were told or past experiences, and we think that to be true forever. You know, like Sandlot, forever. Like, and it's not the case, you know? And it's like we are creatures of habit, and we do think that, okay, because this happened, you know, 5 times, it's going to happen again. But what if it didn't? And I'm always thinking about, what about that 1%?
Well, and it also reminds me of like my favorite analogy. I think we talked about this last year, and I'm going to share this, and then I have one more question for you.
Okay.
But if you've been to California before, you've driven on Pacific Coast Highway.
Oh, I love this one.
It's so good.
It's good.
All right. So what she was saying is when you look at the pictures and you see that you're just a little bit better, you've made an improvement from the last time. There is really no endpoint when it comes to bodybuilding.
That's why it's ING.
Right? Like there's no like when I get to this physique or this weight or this body or this, I'm done. Always evolving. So here's where my analogy comes in. And it goes with life too, right? So let's say you're driving down Pacific Coast Highway and you really want to get to Santa Monica and you're like in Malibu, right? So you can either take like other freeways and just go the fast route because you want to like rush there and just get there fast because you just want to get to Santa Monica. Or you can like look out the window and see the ocean and maybe just see the waves coming or maybe like a little dolphin or something if you're lucky. And it's just such a different mentality because then you're really enjoying the journey versus rushing to that endpoint because you're going to get there anyway. Like, right? If you're moving forward and you're doing the work,
eventually you'll get there.
You're going to get there, but there's no need to rush and beat yourself up for maybe not being there right now because it's just part of the journey.
Yeah. Honestly, I blame Amazon Prime for making us feel like we need instant gratification, right? I'm going to order this and boom, it's at my doorstep. And I feel like we treat fitness that way. You know, we treat life that way. We treat our prayers that way. God, I prayed, like, why don't I have what I need, you know? We want things right now, but are we really doing the work that's required to get that? And if we are, then we need to understand that timing is everything. And it might not happen at the time that you want, but patience and just the continuation of understanding, I'm going to keep pressing forward no matter what. That is the difference between someone who reaches their destination, someone who takes a detour, or someone who just simply gives up.
Yeah, very true. All right, my last question is, this whole journey that we're documenting, you're calling Road to Qualify. So what does this journey mean to you? Like, why do you want to share this? And what are you hoping to get out of this journey? The road to qualify. What are you hoping to get out of that road?
I really want to show people to be fearless. Because it's really difficult for me to sit here and be like, all right, guys, I've got one last chance as the show. And even though I could do everything right, I could bring in the body, like you can get my nutrition dialed in and we could both look at me like, you look amazing. I could very well step on that stage here in Arizona with all my friends and family in the crowd. And I could not get first. Because right now, it's win or go home. This is like NBA playoffs, right? I'm about to go fishing if I don't get this win.
Yeah.
And most people wouldn't want to do a series and document everything leading up to that. Because I could very well fall on my face. But you know what? I feel like people need to see this. We're always showing the highlights. We're always showing just the good. I want people to see the good, bad, and the ugly. I want people to see everything and know that this is what this sport entails. this is what happens when things, go wrong. Like I want to be able to show people how I handle things, not because I'm the best, not because I'm better than anybody, not because I'm an expert or guru, but because I am willing to open up and share, so that goes back to inspire, to motivate, to show people that it's okay to have a goal. It's okay to push forward. And if you fail, it's okay. Because at the end of the day, you either learn or you win, right? You're winning no matter how you look at it. But I also just feel like, because I'm one of the few in the sport, I'm 36 years old. I've done this for 7 years. There's not as many athletes that, like, when I got my pro card, the people that I got my pro card with, very few of them are still competing. So it's, I'm kind of like the OG, I'm like the grandma of bikini, but not really.
It's all right. It's all right.
And so
you still look like a baby.
Thank you. But that's really my thing. It's like, you know what? You've been doing this for so long and you do know a lot. And if I'm going to start taking on more clients and coaching myself, I feel like I need to give everyone a little bit more about the behind the scenes and what it's really about, So that's what I'm most excited for. If I can help somebody out there, if someone's watching this, be like, wow, like, whether it be bodybuilding or just the concepts that we're talking about, faith building, having a relationship with Jesus Christ, like if that's, where you're headed, I just want people to get a real view of me. This is me, raw. That's it,
That was my goal. I wanted to get the real Breena because it's beautiful. It's beautiful to see. I know that people see you through your posts and through what you share, because you are very transparent. You are very inspiring, and you're always sharing in a way that's uplifting others. And it comes across because your whole why is to inspire and to help. And that says a lot. And we also got to see a little bit of what it does for you and what it does internally that then can be pushed outward, right? Because a lot of times what we portray as humans, as people, is a representation of what's going on the inside, or we just have masks and we're really good at covering it all up. I've been there. I think we probably all have, right? Those facades that kind of cover because there's a lot going on internally. But for someone like you who has done so much internal work, so much processing, so much really just allowing God to really transform your heart, yes, you've been able to just take what's in and lay it all out, which is beautiful. And so I really appreciate you sharing. I know that everyone else will hopefully appreciate and be really inspired by what you share. And keep cheering her on. We
September 11th, guys. It's around the corner.
So excited. And yeah, you're amazing.
I love you.
I love you.